welcome. Thanks for coming and joining us tonight. Today we have Claire Chandler, and she is going to tell us all about if it's time or if it's not to grow your business. I know that we're all excited and we're thinking, hey, I'm not really sure where I'm at and I want to grow. Is now the right time? Do I need to wait a little bit longer? All those questions that are kind of going around in your head because you have a lot going on. And so we're going to talk to Claire because she is an expert in helping businesses to plan and whether to stop or whether to start or whether to keep going and all that good stuff. Claire has written a lot of wonderful white papers that have helped us along the process of owning your own business and how to maneuver the intricacies of all of that. But most important, she just wrote this wonderful white paper. And I read it. I was like, oh my God, that's me. Oh my God, that's me. Oh my God. How did she know? She's in my head because I think she's in my head. And this is what a lot of us are thinking. So just wanted to share that with you, if you don't mind, Claire, because I think that a lot of people are thinking those same thoughts.
Oh, it's so true. And Christine, first of all, thank you for having me on your wonderful stage. As we were just talking about backstage, it's interesting how much this is coming up for a lot of people. Not so much is it time to start my business, but people are now sort of at that next decision crossroads to say, am I ready to grow? And I think, one of the biggest fears of that is, what if I break what I've already put together? Right? What if I'm not worthy of getting bigger than I am? I know that's one of those imposter syndromes that runs around in my brain, from time to time.
And so many brains, so much feedback.
Oh my God,
I hear is that exact comment. And when I read your white paper, I was like, that many businesses fail, huh? And how can we keep it from being a success versus being a failure versus staying, that slow pace? All these things are coming into play. So
absolutely,
that's wonderful to have you in the background cheering us on. Yay!
always. And I'd love it as your audience starts to warm up to our conversation. For those who are contemplating growing, which I'm sure a lot of them are, and they've chosen to spend this little time with us, I'd love to know, just in their comments, what's the biggest thing holding them back, right? What's the biggest thing making them anxious? I'd love to hear from them, just to make sure our conversation kind of goes down the most relevant path possible.
Absolutely. Please feel free to put any comments in the chat box so that I can feel free to read them out. And hey, we got a question from the audience and so-and-so wants to know this. You got Claire and she's your captive audience. So ask away.
Absolutely.
And she's going to give us some tidbits on what to look for in your business and see if we need to make some adjustments before you think about growing as well. But as I was saying before, this was like, being a business owner is not for the faint of heart. Well, duh. Why would we do this? This is really hard, right? You have a passion and you have a motivation, but you have all these other things. You drag yourself home after yet another long day of working in your business, just putting out fires, trying to keep your best people from leaving, trying to keep your customers happy and coming back. Okay. You want to spend more time looking further down the road. That's probably most of us. You want to read, you want to learn from industry leaders and experts and apply best practices so you have an easier time growing your business than you actually are doing. But you're so tired. I think that speaks to so many of us, Claire.
It's so true. And I think all of us who are business owners, who are entrepreneurs, who wanted to do something different than follow the traditional career path of working for somebody else, we get so enamored by this notion of building something, right? And there's this great quote, I'm sure we've all heard it at some point in our lives. when you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
I've heard
That's a
that. I
beautiful
wouldn't know what that
saying.
is, but I've heard that.
Well, and here's the thing, right? That's a beautiful saying. It's also a load of hooey. It really is.
Wow.
Because, right, if you do what you're passionate about, which most of us as business owners and founders and, entrepreneurs, we start by, taking what is most lighting the fire within us, right? What we are
Mhm,
most deeply
mhm.
passionate about, and think, well, I'm just going to go out there and do that. And if I believe in it enough, I'm going to, attract the right people into my orbit. They're going to want to pay me huge sums of money to bring light into their lives. And it's work. It's a lot
Wait,
of work.
that's what I hear. I hear that all the time. That
Oh, yeah.
just do what you love, and they're just gonna come fall into your lap. That's not true?
you know, so I want you to you hinted at some of those really scary statistics.
Yes.
And so if you want to rattle some of those off from that white paper, we'll talk about how unrealistic it is to just expect that because you're passionate about something, you can make a thriving business just with a wish and a hope.
And that's why I was so kind of put back by all of these statistics that you had shared, because I thought it was going to be easy, like, all right, well, I want to have my own business and they're just going to come to me. But
Mm.
the rate of business failure is scary. About 20% of all new businesses fail within the first 2 years of operation. Okay, but not mine, because, I'm in the 80% pile.
Of course.
45% don't make it past 5 years, and 65% close their doors by year 10. Now, that is like super duper scary. So, help me out. I mean, only 25% of new businesses reach that 15-year mark. That's
Yeah.
like incredible.
It's scary. And if you just kind of go out on your own in business or contemplate starting your own business and look at those statistics first, you are very likely going to say, nope, 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 my job isn't as miserable as I thought it was. I'm just going to, stick with what I'm doing. And
I was
honestly,
thinking, that's funny that you say that, because I was thinking, I was like, well, I don't have my own business, but I don't think I would want to keep reading.
it's
It was very depressing.
it is daunting. And I think it is
Yeah.
because so many people think if I'm passionate enough and I'm
Mhm.
clear enough in my own head about what I enjoy doing, I'm
Right.
going to make it work no matter what. And all the resilience in the world and all the energy in the world isn't necessarily going to get you to that 15-year anniversary.
So what do we need? I mean, I see you had talked about having clarity. And
Yeah.
if I have the clarity in my head, I know where I'm going. I know what I want. I know how to get there. Isn't that all I need?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest insights that, quite honestly, as an entrepreneur myself, it took me longer than it should have to realize, for it to really sink in,
Mhm.
was even if I was clear on my why, right, my purpose, or what I wanted to offer to the world, what I wanted to build a business around, I had to kind of get over myself. And what I mean by that is I had to understand, okay, that might be what I'm passionate about, but is it resonating with the people that I truly want to help? Right? Any of us who are first starting out and are trying to market their business, let alone land their first or their second or their 10th client, is deeply aware and sort of learns the hard way, most of us, that you have to attract them by what resonates with them, not with the words and the ideas and the frameworks that you become enamored with. And the sooner you realize that, and the sooner you realize it has very little to do with you and it has all to do with who you want to serve and the way that they want to be helped and the way that they, the way that the pain is showing up for them and what that solution looks like in real terms for them, then you can start to have conversations and then you can build a business around much more relevant approaches and frameworks and methods.
So it sounds like what you're saying is, instead of looking at your business from a business owner's side, you're looking at your business from a customer side, fixing their pain point and building your business around what a customer wants.
And that's part of the clarity. So you alluded to that. So the white paper that
Mhm.
you've got in your hands, part of how that is structured going forward is, how do we achieve clarity? The three, I think, biggest landmines that most business owners, especially starting out, trip over are those three things that they lack, which is a lack of clarity truly around what it is that their business is all about, what it is put in place to accomplish, right? There's a lack of preparedness, right? So of getting the right pieces in place, the right people in the right roles, the right processes to replicate success, the right performance, it's going to move the needle closer, to your end goal. And then the big one, quite honestly, even if you have those other two pieces, is a lack of decisiveness. So Bain and Company did this really, really extensive research, and they released a study at the beginning of last year. And they said somewhere around 80 to 90% of all businesses stumble or outright fail because they delay decisions, especially decisions that have to do with the talent, the people, the depth of talent, the depth of their talent bench, right? And when you think about that, it makes sense, right? The longer we delay a decision, and I can't tell you how many leaders I've ever spoken to that I try to help through some sort of resistance that they are facing, or obstacle that they are encountering between where they want to be with their business and where they want to get to. And invariably, it has to do with their people, right? Because at the end of the day, if you want to have a thriving business, let alone you want to grow and scale and expand it,
Right.
you can't do it without people. And invariably, those leaders say to me, some of these people are they're not behaving in ways that I want them to. They're not performing up to the standard that I would have expected, but they're adults. Like, they'll figure it out, they'll kind of straighten out.
Yeah.
It's that ostrich head in the sand kind of mentality that if I ignore the problem, it will go away. And it might, in the form of your best people walking out the door.
Wow. See, and so what does somebody do in that case? Like, how do they move forward? It sounds like decision maker is kind of a barrier to them being able to move forward. But once they make a decision, then everything will be okay.
Well, consistency is the key, right?
Okay.
So just because you make one decision and you pat yourself on the back and go, wow, that was a really tough decision.
I'm done, right?
Yeah, right. I'm so proud of myself. I made the hard decision. I communicated the decision. The sky didn't fall in on me, right? When that next hard decision comes, are you back up against the wall going, no, I already did my hard decision. I'm done, right? And it doesn't work like that. So it kind of leads into where we're heading toward in this conversation, which is, what are some of the ways that we as business owners can better prepare, not to start a business, but to grow it, right? The things that you have to have in place as far as clarity, as far as really understanding what's going to resonate with your ideal client, those are fundamental and foundational to when you start a business. But when you look at, okay, now I'm at that crossroads where I think maybe I want to expand, right? I have achieved a certain level of success. I've got some good clients and customers. We've gotten, a bit of a sort of a renewal, a predictable kind of revenue coming in. Now it's kind of time to push that money back into the middle of the table and let it ride, right? Or is it? As you said, when you teed up the conversation. And so I think you very astutely kind of teed up that question of, not just how do I grow, but is this the right time? Right. And so for me, there's 5 ways I'd love to share with your audience, and let me know if I'm jumping the gun to jump into.
Please do, because that's what I'm wondering. How do you know what is the right time? How do you know whether it's like, I'll just kind of like, we all went through COVID and everyone was kind of like looking around. Well, what are they doing? Well, what are they doing? Let's wait and see and let's watch. And then some people are like, the hell with that. I'm just going to start a business. And that's what they did. And then some people, I hope they don't fire me. I hope I still have a job. So there was a lot of different, thought processes throughout. And I think COVID really changed a lot of people's mindsets. So now we're at the tail end, I hope, knock on wood, of COVID. What do we do from this point to be able to move forward as an individual, as a business, as a society, And I think that you have a lot of great points. So please share them. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and it's such an important question. And we were just talking off stage about the
Mm-hmm.
fact that, you know, since we are hopefully, knock wood, over the hump of this global
Yes.
pandemic,
Yes.
it does seem like this topic of, is it now the time for me to grow my business,
Right.
is really coming up more and more,
Yes.
right? Because so many people were holding their collective breath for the last 2 years and really focusing on, I just need to keep the lights on, the customers that I have, right? All of those
Right.
things. And so now we're back at this crossroads of, okay, we've kind of conquered that, or at least figured out how to live and work alongside of COVID.
Right.
Now it might be time to expand. And I'm an eternal optimist. So I always kind of look for the silver lining in things like a global pandemic, which of course I saw coming. I can't believe it. Right? But you know, one of the great things that sort of emerged from that was we were reminded that we live in an age where technology enables us to continue to do what we do, right? And continue to stay connected with people and continue to identify needs and help people get to a point of solution and a point of relief. We didn't have that, you know, even 10 years ago. We weren't in the same position to continue to start a business, grow a business, et cetera. Okay, so putting all that aside and kind of standing upon that, there are 5 ways I want to share with your audience. So this is a great time for all of you to take out, you know, your pen and paper or a blank Word document or however you best take notes, because I'm going to run through these 5 ways to get your business ready to grow, right? And it's important to understand the word ready, because this is not how you grow your business through these 5 ways. It's how you establish a much firmer platform for growing and scaling and expanding and deciding how much work you still have to do before you can do that in a reliable way, right?
This sounds like a lot of work. So are you saying that after listening to you right now, I can't just grow my business tomorrow? I don't understand. Like, are we going to like wave a magic wand and say,
no. Listen, there is no magic wand. There's no silver bullet. But if you kind of really think through these 5 ways, and then we're going to have an invitation at the end to even go deeper on that. And I know you were kind enough to start sharing that link already, where there's an opportunity coming up to go even deeper. Let me go through the 5 ways, because I think as you start to sort of unpack these, you'll start to see how they stack upon each other, build upon each other, and really drive better decisions, right? Okay. So way number 1 is to get clear on your mission. So here's that word clarity again, right? And when you think about the clarity of your mission, I want people to understand that I'm not talking about dusting off the mission statement that you plopped onto your website when you first opened your doors and you haven't looked at since, right? A mission statement very often is not the same as your purpose, your deeply embedded why. So you have to get clear on your mission. This is the do not pass go, do not collect $200 portion of the game, right? You absolutely need to deeply and clearly understand, as the owner of the business, as a leader of a team, as the founder of the company, whatever, you have to deeply understand why you are in business in the first place, what you were put on this earth, in this market, at this time to accomplish. Don't overlook that step. It is so foundational to everything else that you're going to do. And it is certainly foundational to the other 4 ways I'm going to share.
So let me ask you, Claire, with that clarity, being clear, the mission statement that you're dusting off from quite a few years ago, is that changing at all? Or, I mean, if you have to kind of revamp it or make sure it's updated, is that kind of tweaking it? Or is it like changing because you've gotten away from that original mission and goal? Or why would you need to do that?
It could be any of those things.
Okay.
The longer it has been since you, and I'm speaking to your entire audience, the business owners, since you have looked at that statement of mission or that statement of purpose, and the less familiar you are with it, now is a perfect time. You know, I've been counseling a lot of business leaders when we were just getting through the peak of COVID. Now is a great time as you're bringing your employees back into a physical workplace. Now is the ideal time to take a fresh look at the mission, because to your point, things may have changed. the world under our feet has shifted permanently, right? The ways that we deliver what we do, what the customer needs, and how we can offer it have changed permanently. And so what better time to take a fresh look and to look with fresh eyes and with some, new people at that statement of purpose and make sure it still resonates. And if it doesn't, absolutely, it is incumbent upon you as the business owner and the leader to revamp, tweak, or throw it out and start over.
Okay. All right.
So that is the foundational way to start to prepare to grow your business, or decide that you've got more work to do before you can do that, right? So if that's step number one, or that's kind of way number one. The second thing is to know your fundamentals. So once you get clarity on this is what we are in business to accomplish, this is what we are going to be all about, this is what we believe, etc. What do we need to do to make that happen, right? What are the skills we require? What are the roles that we need? What's the fundamental DNA that we need to possess and demonstrate and lean on to deliver on that mission? And so everything on that list, from skills and competencies and behaviors and experiences and, all of those sorts of things, you want to build up as big of an inventory as it takes for you to be able to look at the list and say, yep, if we can fire on all of these cylinders, we'll achieve that mission. Right?
So if you can't fire on all of those cylinders, you're missing one of those core things, such as skills, or not enough people or hands to bring together those skills to the table to, execute your mission. Does that mean you have to stop expanding because you need to fix that first, or can you start to still move forward with the other steps? Or
what a great question. So, and I
should I go ahead? I'm so sorry.
No. This is fantastic, because you're internalizing these different ways already and starting to see how to put them in action. So it's a fantastic question. Once you have that inventory and you say, okay, this is the full list of all the cylinders we need to be firing on, right? Absolutely, you are going to have at least some things on that list that are not currently strengths for you, right? Okay. That are either you're underperforming on or you flat out lack.
Right.
If they're on the list because you have deemed them mission critical, then the ones that you are lacking or you're underperforming on are gaps that you need to pay attention to. So it's not just critical to know those fundamentals. It's also critical to say which of these are current gaps, because those are things we have to act on. Now, to come back to your question, does that mean we have to, halt any sort of expansion activity, entirely? My answer to that is it depends on how truly critical that one particular.
I hate that answer. It depends. Oh my goodness.
Listen, I'm a consultant, right? I answer everything with it depends. Absolutely. No, but it's true, right? Because it might be, it depends on how big the gap is, right?
Yep.
If it's mission critical, right? If it's one of those multi-legged stools and it takes up an entire leg, you really need to think twice before you expand and lock that down. Okay. If it's just, it's not a super strength for us right now, but we need to continue to evolve it, well, then more likely you can do that in parallel with moving forward with your expansion plan.
All right.
Keep those questions coming, though. You're right on target with what you're asking.
I'm putting you on the spot, Clara. I'm sorry.
I love this. I can talk about this all day long. It's great. Okay, so that's way number 2, right? Way number 1 was get clear on your mission. Way number 2 is play to your strengths. Know your fundamentals. Way number 3 is play to your strengths. So similar to what you were just sort of zeroing in on in terms of, okay, we look at this inventory and we're identifying certain things that are gaps. There are also very likely certain things on that list that are current strengths. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm a list maker. That's just part of how my brain works. Right?
I like my list.
But part of the reason we want to get really clear, really tangible, really detailed on that whole inventory is so that we can much more readily see where we're lacking and where we're really, really strong. Right. Okay. So while you may have to slow the gears of expansion down because you have some deep-rooted gaps that you have to go and fill in first, you may also find that there are some things on that mission critical list that you have in spades right now. And I would challenge you to use those as competitive advantages and put your foot on the gas, right? So the last thing you want to do is recognize that those are strengths of yours. And then just like those leaders I was referring to before, leave them to their own devices to kind of grow, right? The reason I kill plants is because I just sort of put my faith in them that they're going to figure out how to find sun and how to stay hydrated, right?
I love that.
The mistake that a lot of leaders do. Like, you got to water your plant. You got to give it sunlight, right? You got to give it nutrients. You got to give it a reason to grow.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's way number 3.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah. So look at those items on your list that are current strengths for you. See them as the competitive advantages that they are, and put your foot on the gas a little bit and leverage those to start distancing yourself, at least in certain categories, from your competitors.
Right. Okay. All right.
So that's way number 3.
Very good.
Way number 4, we all have obstacles standing between where we are now and where we want to get to, right? And business owners are no different. Business leaders, people who want to expand. What I would say first is, just as it is critical to know what your mission critical fundamentals are, it is absolutely critical to know what are the obstacles, both real and perceived. And here's a little mantra for those of you who are sort of bumper sticker happy. If we can name it, we can tame it. And what I mean by that is, the more specific you can get around the exact obstacles that you foresee between where you are today and where you want to grow, the more easily you can start to solution around those and either build workarounds, right? What processes can we pull in to work around an obstacle? Which obstacles are just, our imposter syndrome kind of rearing its ugly head because we just sort of gave into this nebulous fog that tells us every day we're not worthy of growing our business beyond where it is right now. And which ones are real, they're tangible, they're things that we either need to conquer, work around, or at least minimize that they don't stand in our way. So that way number 4 is turn those obstacles into opportunities. And the better chance you have of doing that is by making those obstacles as tangible, as real, as named as possible. Because if we can name it, we can tame it.
I have 2 questions.
Love it. Go.
The first question, are you going to come up with all of those obstacles? Are you going to need a team of people that also have, like, stakeholders that are going to have some kind of interest, looking from the outside in, or maybe they're working different levels from you, from the business owner, that can contribute to the idea of an obstacle, perhaps?
I love your questions. One, you just pay attention as an interviewer, which is great. So the answer is, the more you can bring in the perspectives of other people, and you use the word stakeholders, and I think that's appropriate. The more you can bring in other people into your formulation process, not even your decision-making process, but your clarity finding process, right? So starting with that mission clarity. You may, as a business owner, business leader, founder, et cetera, have a pretty clear idea of why you're in business in the first place, what you're trying to achieve, right, going forward. I have rarely met a founder who can say to me, not only am I crystal clear on our mission, but every single person on my team is. Most of them are deluding themselves. Most of them have convinced themselves that everybody on the team knows exactly what they are there in business to accomplish. And you will be quite surprised, right? That most people don't. And so the sooner you can bring those people in and those perspectives and that feedback, the more bulletproof you're going to make your mission. And here's another little bumper sticker moment for you. People support what they help to create, right? So if you give people an opportunity to weigh in on your mission, maybe not, build it from the ground up, but react to and reflect back and give feedback into what you think your mission is. One, they're going to see it from a different angle than perhaps you have envisioned. And 2, they're going to make it even stronger. So I use that term crowdsourcing your mission. It's one of the exercises that I go through with my clients, is to really kind of bulletproof and make it resonate as much as possible with the people that you were trying to get to achieve the mission, right? It does you no good as a business owner if you're the only one who understands and buys into the mission. You have to have everybody else do it as well.
I think that goes back to what you were saying at the start of our conversation. You're in business for a customer and their pain point, not because you want to be in business, even though we all want to think that that's why we're in business.
Yeah.
You're filling a need for them. And I think asking other people's opinions and how they perceive things is going to be helpful, beneficial.
Yeah. And there are ways to have that conversation, right?
Yeah.
So to come back to your question specifically around the obstacles, there are tools. There are certainly tools that I use with my clients. They're kind of diagnostic tools that can, one, measure against your inventory of mission critical fundamentals, which ones you have and at what percentage you have them, right? So that you know beyond just a gut feel which ones are gaps and which ones are competitive advantages. But then there are other tools, there are guided interviews, there are ways that you can have a much more meaningful, substantive, and actionable conversation around how do we each as stakeholders view our internal world, i.e. our organization.
Yes.
Right. And how do we do that in such a way so that we can zero in relatively quickly on the areas that, again, are strengths for us that we want to continue to nurture and to feed, like that plant that's wilting in the corner of my office. Right?
I feel so bad. I want to come give it some love and some water and some fertilizer.
And then I told you off stage, my parents were down to celebrate their anniversary. My mom brought me these beautiful sunflowers. I'm like, that's sad. They're going to die. I'm just going to watch them every morning, just wither and go. They were so fresh 2 days ago. But anyway, there's tools. There are guided conversations. There are ways to include your stakeholders without grinding the wheels of growth to a halt. Because I know a lot of business owners hear that and go, that's going to slow us down. We got to grow. We got to do it fast. Yes. We got to seize the opportunity. If you leave your people behind, how do you expect them to grow in the direction you want them to go?
Right. And that's exactly what I was thinking, because you're stating very important things and a process that is going to work if you follow those steps. However, there's definitely going to be lag time because you're getting all those people involved and schedules and whatever it happens to be is going to take a little bit longer. And they might just say, the heck with it, we're just going to go forward. and maybe that's why our percentages are a little bit higher.
Well, and we go back to what I was talking about earlier, where those three landmines that tend to feed into those horrible business failure statistics, right?
Yes.
This lack of clarity if you skip over really getting clear on your mission. This lack of preparedness if you don't do your homework and say, if these are our mission critical fundamentals, where do we need to plug gaps and where do we need to, put our foot on the gas? If you don't bring in the people, the stakeholders around you and at least some of the critical position holders who are going to have to take those actions and, put their shoulder to the wheel. If you don't do that, then you're only ever going to have a gut level feel about the things that you need to do to get ready to grow. If you involve those people, yes, on the front end, it takes a little bit more time, but it accelerates your decision-making to such a degree because now you have clarity, now you have facts, and now you have confidence that the decisions that you are going to make are the ones that are going to move the needle.
I love that. It's going to save you time in the long run, and probably you won't be part of those percent failures. You'll be the successes, which is really nice. Let me ask you too, and I don't know how many, you said 5, are we going through 4, 3?
We went through 4 so far.
Sorry. Okay. So maybe again, I'm jumping the gun. Obstacles, turn it into opportunities. Sounds like a SWOT analysis there.
It's, this whole thing kind of comes together a bit like a SWOT analysis.
Okay.
I have a little bit of a bias against a SWOT.
Yeah.
I know some people are still clutching onto it with their, their very last dying breath, that the SWOT.
Heard so many taking that SWOT and changing the terms and the words, and it's not necessarily, SWOT anymore, but I saw yours and I'm like, oh, okay, that
Oh, I
makes
love
sense.
it. We're a teaser here. Okay, so yeah,
I'm gonna let you say.
I love it. No, so my evolution of the SWOT is
Yeah.
actually the flow method, and flow
Right.
is an acronym, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the F is fundamentals, which
Yep.
we covered. What are your fundamental
Yes.
gaps? The L is levers. What are the levers of strength that you already have that you can put your foot on the gas?
Okay.
The O is the obstacles, right? And where can we turn those into opportunities? And the W leads to this fifth way of getting your business ready to grow. So the W is all about wins, right?
Okay.
And so we didn't start there. We didn't start with, because you get most business owners in a room and you say, what are the wins that you've got to achieve? They're going to say, well, we got to double revenue, we got to double customer base, and we got to do that with a 10% increase in headcount and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you start with that, you're starting by focusing on the bottom line. And I don't know about you, but I know I don't really walk terribly effectively if I'm looking straight down at the ground.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of business owners do this.
Yeah.
And they're surprised when they bump into walls. And they're surprised when they look up and half the desks are empty because they didn't start at the starting point, which is to clarify your mission and make sure your people are coming along for that ride.
Okay.
But if we do it in this order of these first four ways, by the time you get to way 5 and you start to say, okay, if that's our mission and that's where we want to get to, and knowing some of the things we do about what we possess and what we lack and some of the obstacles and all of that, what do the wins look like? What does success look like? And yes, we have to do it in tangible ways, right? We have to identify metrics. We probably need a revenue goal. We probably need a customer growth target. All of those things are important. But if you start there rather than at the top, right, with that vision and that clarity of mission, you're really going to miss out on those long-term gains. And as we saw from the statistics that you shared at the top of the conversation, you're never going to make it to that 15-year cake, which I've heard is pretty good. Right? So you want to identify those wins. Another piece of the wins that it's really, really critical is identifying quick wins. Because again, a lot of what we're talking about is getting into some discipline and getting into some rhythm and bringing in stakeholders, which on the front end feels like it's going to slow down your path to growth. But if you do those things, it's really going to accelerate because it's going to clarify the decisions that you need to make. But quick wins are super important, right? And we always talk about quick wins and we always hear that those are important. But it's really important to identify at least one quick win that's going to help you fill in a gap, a fundamental gap. One quick win that's going to help you leverage a strength. One quick win at least that's going to help you turn one of your obstacles into an opportunity. And what I mean by that, by the way, is not every obstacle can just be flattened and moved to the side. If they could, you would have done it already. Right? Yes. But part of this exercise is to get really, really specific, very tangible on what those obstacles in fact are versus in our imagination. Okay. And then saying, where can we seize a short-term opportunity to bring in some of our, our stakeholders, to bring in some of our workforce and say, I want you guys to go tackle that. Because I'm the business owner, but I'm not, I don't know everything. I don't know all the answers. I'm going to empower you to help us figure out a creative way to remove that obstacle. And again, people support what they help to create. So quick wins along the way toward a longer term growth strategy are going to help build momentum. It's going to help deepen engagement. And the more that you start to see those quick wins come to fruition, the more you're going to feel energized toward that longer term goal.
I can absolutely see that. I think it's motivational for your team, for the people that are involved in that day-to-day business to be able to celebrate those small wins. I'm wondering the flow method, kind of going through all those steps. Do you have to do them in order? You talked about quick wins and you can capitalize on them for, turning your obstacle into an opportunity and that kind of thing. Do you get to go back and forth, or do you have to do it in that order to be successful? Or are you going to kind of go through it all and then say, okay, and I'm done? Or what happens what's next?
Yeah, great question. So it's interesting. When I was first sort of blowing up the SWOT method and sort of mapping out the flow method, I was tempted from time to time to reverse it and call it Wolf and start with the wins and then go to the obstacles and all of that. And I thought, Yeah, okay. Now I'm just going down a different rabbit hole. But the reality is, yes, if you do the mission clarity part first, you can
Mm-hmm.
absolutely then jump straight to, well, what does that look like in tangible terms, right? What do the wins look like? And then work backwards. Those other elements of the flow, other than really the fundamentals and the levers, because you have to build that inventory first of all the
Mm-hmm.
fundamentals, so you can
Okay.
put, the gaps in the fundamentals bucket and the strengths into the levers bucket. But yeah, I mean, you can certainly do the wins first, and then your obstacles, and then do the fundamentals and levers pretty much
Okay.
simultaneously.
Do you have to revisit it again? I know you had mentioned, back when we started about dusting off that mission statement
Yeah,
and just reevaluating, making sure that that's what we do and where we want to go, kind of thing.
yeah. You absolutely should. I mean, your mission, if you do it right, and you're not just dusting off the mission statement from the
Yeah.
website, giving it a cursory glance, and then rubber
Yes.
stamping it.
Yeah.
If you're truly bringing people in and you're understanding from your stakeholders, yes, this is a mission, this is a purpose, this is a why that resonates, then that can pretty much stay your horizon for a longer term. But the rest of that kind of flow chart, if you will, absolutely is a living document, right? Because
Okay.
remember what it's setting out to document on one page.
Yes.
It's putting, at a glance, where your biggest gaps are, where your
Mm-hmm.
biggest strengths are, where your obstacles are, and where your wins are. And if you're following that and you're using that one page to guide your decisions, then every decision becomes, when I decide this, is that going to help us fill a gap, or leverage a competitive advantage, or minimize an obstacle, or celebrate a win, whether it's a long-term win or a quick win? If you don't revisit that, this
Mm-hmm.
one page becomes very stale very quickly. If you do continue to revisit that and refresh it, right? Every time you fill
Right.
a gap, every time
Yeah.
you strengthen a gap to the point where it moves over to a lever of strength,
Yes.
every time you knock an obstacle right off its perch and it's no longer a barrier to your success and to your growth, every time you achieve a milestone and you want to celebrate a win, you want to keep that flow chart as active and living and updated as possible, because to your point earlier, that also creates momentum.
Okay. I love that. I absolutely think that's an awesome thing. Yes.
Well, thank you.
And for people that are struggling with making those decisions, to be able to have a reference to something that they've created and they've decided upon for those quadrants, and say, well, it doesn't go with this or this, it doesn't make this happen, it doesn't change and the obstacle to an opportunity, whatever it happens to be. So now I know what the decision should be.
And which ones are
Because
worth your
yeah,
time, right?
yeah.
How many of us get so inundated with the day-to-day minutia, and we sometimes use that as an excuse
Mm-hmm.
not to do the long-term planning. We say, I have too many fires to put out, I have too many decisions to make. And you just hit on something very, very important. If you use that flow chart the right way, there
Mm-hmm.
are some decisions that come across your desk or into your field of vision that actually don't warrant a decision at all, because they're not in line with where you're trying to go. And you know that if you've got mission clarity, and you know that if you've plotted out your fundamentals, et cetera, right?
Yes.
So doing something like that, again, takes a little bit of work up front. But if you do the work, your decision clarity and the ease with which you can make decisions goes through the roof.
So, do you recommend this method thought process for just business owners, or for CEOs, or for nonprofit board members, or for, I mean, is there another way that we can also use that
I have
method with it?
used this, yeah, I've used this flow chart approach with founders, business owners, business leaders of large organizations, leaders of large teams. Really anywhere that you have, um, I'd say conservatively, at least 10 or 12 people, within your responsible charge. And on up from there. I mean, I've used it with organizations that have thousands of employees, right? Um, it is more actionable when you have a smaller span of control where you're
Okay.
where you're using that. But the larger the organization, the grander the vision, the deeper the
Yes.
inventory of mission critical fundamentals, et cetera, et cetera. So I've used it across
Okay.
any industry, any, any team of at least some size that has some, some talent bench. Because again, if you're going to grow, you need your people. You need the right people. They've
So how
got to
much
be in the
cake
right
have you
role.
gotten to have?
Sorry, say again.
How much cake have you gotten to have?
So I'm not at the 15-year mark yet, but actually next year will be my 10th anniversary. So
All right.
yeah,
Okay. So invite us all for cake. I
absolutely.
do have a question in the chat box here. Thank you
Oh,
so
cool.
much for asking and typing that in, Yan Chu. All right. So it says, hello, Christine and Claire. Thank you for sharing. I have a question that I am currently running a fish and chip shop. Due to the impact of COVID, my business has also been affected to a certain extent, such as a drop in customer traffic and an increase in price of raw materials. I wish that was not the
Everybody's
case. I have
so
heard that
struggling with
so
that.
often. I would
Yep.
like to ask how to solve the business under the influence of COVID.
Yeah. So great question. And now I'm hungry for fish and chips, quite honestly, because just
And cake. Yes.
love
Okay.
them. So there's that. So there's still a customer demand, short answer. I would absolutely say, go back through, and I know this recording will be available as well. Go back through this exercise. I know we went through it kind of a lightning round version, but go back through and follow this kind of flow method. You will very likely unlock some near-term actions that you can take to address, in particular, some of those obstacles, but also in a way where you include some of your key stakeholders, some of your key people to help you find the decisions. I think the big takeaway from that I want you to remember is you don't have to have all the answers yourself. I think too many.
I've heard that.
I mean, too many
People
business
feel like we
owners.
have to have the answer
Listen,
for everything.
and I speak from experience. You said at the top of the conversation where how did you get into my head? How did you know that this is what I'm feeling?
Yes.
It's because everything I put in that white paper is something I've felt myself, right? We feel like if we don't continue to increase revenue, continue to bring in and retain the right people, we are at the end of the day going to let our family down. And that's a really hard pill to swallow. But you do have to remember, and this is something that I say out loud as much as possible as a reminder to myself, that you're not actually there alone, that you don't have to have all the answers. And it's it's one of the reasons that you have a team and you have other people in your network so you can pull them in. You can be a little bit vulnerable. And I really celebrate you being so vulnerable in your question. But please go back and go through the recording and kind of go through these 5 ways that we went through today relatively quickly. And I think my contact info, oh, thank you, Christine, is right there. So if you want to, I'm happy to kind of be a sounding board for you a little bit on that as well. But good luck with what you're doing. And like we've been saying, a little bit of the work on the front end and doing this and kind of unpacking your business and looking at it more objectively is going to pay off and pay dividends over the longer term.
Absolutely. The struggle is real.
Totally.
You had just touched on it, and I just wanted to say, going back to what I had said in the beginning, dragging yourself home, putting out fires every day, you have no energy left at the end of the day to spend quality time with your family. And while they see you working hard, they really don't understand what it is that you do. I was like, oh my gosh, she knows.
Again, I wrote from experience, right? I mean, there's
Or
like,
she's working again. I don't know what she's doing, but she says she's working again. So
yeah.
I guess I'll just be quiet.
I can't tell you one person. I think my husband comes the closest to really understanding what I do. But even that, like, he doesn't understand that, like, day in, day out,
Right.
what I do, the amazing people I get the privilege to work with. It's so hard to put into words because it's more, I don't know, for me anyway, it's more of this feeling that we get when we get to this sort of moment of insight and breakthrough, that just keeps me going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't give up, everyone. I mean, there's definitely hope, and there's, no matter how much negativity you might have heard, there's such a huge part of positivity that is there and is waiting for you. Use these methods that Claire is going through. And if you want some more information, definitely check out her seminar that's coming up. What, tomorrow is it? 2 days?
So thank you for teeing that up. So
Yeah.
in August, the first week of August 2nd and 3rd,
Mhm.
I'm running so it's a 2-day workshop. It's really 90-minute sessions on each of those 2 days, where we go into much, much greater detail on the flow method, how to really clarify your mission. So we'll do some exercises where, by the time we get through that, you will be much clearer on what that mission looks like for you personally. So I encourage you to at least check that out. The link is in the chat, or you can reach out to me and I can get you more information. We would love to have you join us. Again, it's 90 minutes each day. And if you're not able to catch the live session, you would also get access to the recordings, so that you could kind of slow them down. I tend to talk fast sometimes. So if you want to replay that to your heart's content, that would be available to you as well.
That sounds awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight, Claire, and just, sharing the flow method and how easy it can be. Definitely, I encourage everyone listening or watching the replay, do not be a part of those business failures. Be a part of the successes.
Yeah.
Use this method, and that's definitely going to help you to succeed. And don't forget to invite Claire and I for your anniversary cake celebration.
Yes, we love cake. We'll bring ice cream.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
Have a
Appreciate
good
it.
night,
Thanks, everyone.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.